News. So, in news that would excite Swinny, 2K and Gearbox Software have announced a new Tales from the Borderlands game, which will be coming out in this year. So the announcement was made at PAX East this week. The original 2014 series was made by Telltale Games and was highly regarded. The follow-up is being made in-house at Gearbox and has been in production for a few years. Swinny, do you want to take the rest away? I know that you're excited about this.
Yeah, because Tales from Borderlands was great, like shockingly great. I'm not a huge fan of the Telltale style of gameplay, but this Tales from Borderlands had really well written characters. It was, as mentioned, it wasn't written by Gearbox, but it still had the vibe of Borderlands. But it was essentially felt like its own thing. And they did some of the characters from Tales of Borderlands did go on to be in like Borderlands 3, and I think some people actually felt that the way that they were treated in Borderlands 3 felt like it just felt a bit odd. It's like, okay, you've taken these characters and amped them up to 11 because the Borderlands games, the mainline games are kind of super over the top,
Yeah.
whereas this was a little bit more down to earth because it was more about the character building and dialogue and everything. But I think the reason why I think this is really great news is it goes to show that, look, a series like I didn't think would ever get another one of these games simply because of the whole Telltale situation. But obviously, Gearbox, Gearbox have had their hits and their massive misses. But at the same time, I think it's great that they're actually doing this for people that want more of this style of game. It won't feature the same characters. It will feature all new characters. You may have them pop in as cameos, just like some of the mainline Borderlands characters were cameos in the first series. But the other thing is they're calling this a game. They're not calling it a series. So the first Tales from Borderlands released in 5 episodes, like the majority Telltale series did.
Yeah.
Whereas they've called this a game. So
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
expecting this to be an episodic thing. They may potentially already, you get these voice actors and everything, then maybe they'll just record a whole bunch of stuff and maybe they'll do 2 games. I don't know. But they're not treating it as episodic from the teasing that they've said. The only thing they've shown at the moment is just like a teaser image with some silhouettes of potentially the new characters. But yeah, no platforms or anything are known, but it is coming this year. They, I think, Randy Pitchford said on stage at PAX East. So that's coming very quickly. With on the what is it about games coming this year that we didn't know about? Like we had Monkey Island last episode.
Oh, but I think it's the whole COVID thing and then also cyberpunk disaster, right? Of just like, and we'll cover that next in the next story about just release dates changing. But I just think people don't feel 100% comfortable or confident that certain dates are going to get hit. You just before we move on, like on the episodic sort of approach, I feel like they've tried that. Like many people, Telltale most infamously or famously, depending on your view. I just don't feel like it works very well in games, in my opinion. And I'm actually shocked to see that Telltale, the revival of Telltale, that especially with Wolf Among Us, the sequel that they announced, that they're still going to go with an episodic approach to that. It just feels very strange to me. I agree with your view. I think that this game will be a game and it won't be broken up into pieces. I feel like it doesn't help the hype of your game by splitting it up into little bits.
Yeah, I think there are some benefits, but I agree. I think most of it is it just feels like it drags on, especially if we had some episodes of Telltale Games that were just delayed and delayed and delayed. So you had months and months between them. And obviously, famously, you've got Half-Life Episode 3 as an example of people just being really let down, that there was no kind of follow-up onto a loose thread there. But yeah, it's an interesting space. I mean, the whole industry's changed since that era, and maybe just doesn't. Maybe they tried it and it just didn't. Well, for Telltale, it worked out for a while, but obviously the bottom fell out eventually. So.
Well, I think it was very novel at the start, and it was almost like a really great way to garner attention with the media. Like, oh, this game is coming out in installments. It's like, oh, wow, this is a really cool idea. But I think ultimately it gets back to, you need to have like a pretty big bang for your game. I love marketing. I don't know much about marketing. Weirdly enough, I don't know if you know this, but I'm I don't want to dox myself, but I'm technically in marketing now. My role where I work, like I'm officially in marketing, right? Which is super bizarre.
I am so sorry.
I mean, I don't do any marketing stuff, but I'm officially in marketing, which I think is hilarious. And I've noticed the demographic change massively compared to the other teams I've worked with. But what I was trying to say is that I do love this element of the games industry, and then I look at what happened with Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring. It's like like it feels like it was a Mexican standoff, and they're just like, oh, we're gonna pull the trigger. We're just gonna keep the game at this release date. And to me, what a terrible decision, honestly. Like, imagine if they release that game now, or like in May, where like there's a few games coming out, like, but nothing massive. No AAA games that I'm aware of are coming out in the next month. And I feel like everyone's played Elden Ring. It would be like time to like have a game like that come out. But instead, it's like people have missed that game. Its sales are like terrible compared to what they were expecting. So, yeah, no, I love the marketing element of it. But I'm surprised that Wolf Among Us 2. They're talking about it being in installments. But yeah.
So, talking about release dates.
Yes, we're talking about release dates. So nice segue swing